As we celebrate International Women's Day today all across the world, we recognize the theme for all women and girls, rights, equality, and empowerment, the hashtag Accelerate Action. I'm speaking with Mmanti Umoh today. She's a management consultant at Purple Patch Consult, and she'll be sharing with us what it means to accelerate action from a point of being a differently abled person. First, let me start by asking you a very interesting question. Can you share with us how your unique journey has shaped your understanding of rights and empowerment?
My journey has been that I would call one of resilience. It's learning. It's consistently unwavering commitment to um, advocating not just for inclusion and empowerment, but living as a differently abled woman in a society that overlooks our experiences has shaped my understanding from very many perspectives. Um, it's not just a personal portrait, it's made me understand how every other person that has been dealing with what they've dealt with has been able to come through. Let me start with saying I didn't have these difficulties till very recent years. And so understanding and being able to accept how a lot of other people were dealing with it became something I had to work on a daily basis. So it's different if you were born this way and then you say that through life, you had to develop your attitude, habits, and that. But it came at the peak of my career with so many other things happening, and it shaped quite a few things. My experiences have taught me that rights are not given, they must be actively claimed and protected through policies, representation, and societal shifts. I have also learned that the empowerment, not just of women, men, anybody that is able bodied, comes from a place of knowledge, economic independence, and it must be in an environment that enables rather than limits them.
So what for you has been the most empowering moment of your life? I mean, I understand from what you've said now that it wasn't a situation of something that you were born with. So along the line, what has been the most empowering moment in your life as a differently abled woman, and how has it accelerated your sense of self empowerment?
My most defining and empowering moment has been realizing that I didn't have to fit into societal expectations to succeed. I didn't have to be a particular way, certain way. It was the moment that I embraced my uniqueness, I leveraged my strength, and I focused on the things that others felt would be limitations. It was that time where I needed to get a task accomplished. I had all the skills, I had the IQ, I had the EQ and everything, but the only limiting factor was going to be that the people that were going to hire me for that consultancy had felt that because I had to use crutches at the time, that it would slow down their work. Um, I realized that there were two things. I could either prove that I could deliver on what was needed, or I could just back down and say, you know what, I had this disability, or I had this thing. But that shift in perspective, it accelerated my sense of self-empowerment. It allowed me to take bold steps in my career. And not just for myself, it's what put me on the pedestal where I was able to advocate for others and challenge systemic barriers.
Right, and speaking of inclusion and accelerating action, how can society accelerate actions to make daily life and the workplace more inclusive of women with different abilities to ensure their rights are recognized and respected?
Across the years that I have had to work with international governments and local authorities, by local that in Africa, around Africa, West Africa especially, I've advocated for an adoption of a universal design. a universal design that makes public spaces, our workplaces, and our digital platforms accessible to everybody that needs to be able to access. The problem is not the disability. The challenge is in the reoccurring lack of design, enabling design for everybody to be able to work with. And then the other thing I'd say is that we need to enforce policies, not just having disability right laws, but ensuring that they are implemented. We have many policies, we have many laws, we have many things that are done daily to advocate, in quotes, for what it is that is disability. But we need to enforce these policies. A third thing that I come up top of my head is that we must promote representation. Women with disabilities must be part of decision making. You can't be making decisions for me when it is that I am the one that understands how things work for me. We don't just make them beneficiaries when you want to have one political campaign or sort. Make them a part of the decision making that brings the representation of their policies to bear. And we need to also work on our mindsets.
Hmm.
Education and awareness for me are critical to breaking stereotypes. Economic empowerment of women is something else I have advocated for in the last recent years, where there need to be more job opportunities. I drive, I cook, I do everything I need to do. My IQ is very high and that. So you cannot just limit us because you feel we have a certain, the limitation is more essentially in the mind of the person that views the person with an ability, a disability, rather with the person that has that special ability. So let's provide them funding for entrepreneurs. Let's include workplace accommodations, make where you have the staircases all through. Could you also have the slopes? Could we have the elevators? Make it more inclusive for them so that they can also be economically empowered.
Right. Do you have any women who have inspired you to push for greater rights and equality? I mean, you've spoken about having women at the helm of affairs, making decisions, people that can also relate to the same journey, not someone else, trying to make laws and policies when they don't have an understanding. So, are there any women who have inspired you to push for greater rights and equality for women with that who are differently abled?
I like the way you use the word different labeled, and I must commend because many times the word disability is just thrown in our faces. Uh, I would say I draw inspiration from countless women who have worked in this space. I haven't gotten to meet quite a lot of them, but I have been able to interact internationally with quite a few of them. We have, if I would mention names, I would talk about Helen Keller. I would also talk about Malala. Despite their disabilities, they were able to advocate in ways that it didn't just um, carry along the differently abled women, it carried along so many people in the society. But more importantly, I know that I am inspired by women in my community. I see a lot of women in my community who, despite the challenges, are making significant contributions. I mean, very significant contributions to society. There's an elderly lady that we were able to provide funding for who is crippled but is planting and is selling. She goes on her bare back and plants through large plots of land. And those are the kind of women that make me go out every day to advocate for women who are differently abled. Their resilience fuels my commitment to push for greater heights for all of us in this space.
Right. And in your opinion, what should be the top priority for accelerating progress on improving the lives and rights of women who are living, differently worldwide?
Top of my head, I'd say that it would be economic and political inclusion. Women with disabilities must must be in places where we can influence decisions, whether in leadership, in governance, in corporates. Africa, our financial independence is key to driving our empowerment. I'm able to have a voice, speak, because I am able to make money, to work, to make money, to be able to speak at the stages that I am able to. More women, if they are enabled, would be able to do that. So I think that my priority in speaking to governments at this time is that the economic and political inclusion of women who are differently abled is the topmost priority for any government that wants to put them at the top of their list.
Right. And what role has community support played in your empowerment in general, and how can we accelerate action to create more inclusive and supportive communities for the differently abled women around the world?
Through mentorship, allyship, I have found allies in international communities from the Global Shapers, where I'm a founding curator in, to many other international groups where I lead and belong, even advocacy groups, to in to create more inclusive communities. We will need stronger advocacy networks. We need to amplify our voices. We need accessible infrastructure so that we can foster true inclusion. I also believe that collaborations between private and public sectors will ensure sustainable solutions are made for each and every one of us.
Right. And finally, what does International Women's Day mean to you, particularly in the context of this year's theme, which is focusing on accelerating actions to ensure the right, the equality, and empowerment of women? So, from your own unique perspective, what does this year's theme mean for you?
This year, I believe the International Women's Day is a day for us to reflect, to amplify, and to act. It's a day for us to celebrate the progress we've made across the years, but also to hold our systems accountable. This year's theme of accelerating action is especially significant for me because it shows up a sense of urgency. It puts us at the place where we're not just having our everyday panels and group functions and not just conversations. We have to see how we can enable all the things that we've spoken about across the years to become reality. So I just want to reflect. I feel that this year, above speaking, organizing events, we should reflect, amplify what has been done so far, and then act on them.
And thank you. That was going to be my final question, but I actually have another question from just what you've said. You said to act differently and all of that. And just yesterday I was reading a post which talked about performative activism, especially when on International Women's Day we have lots of panels here, events here and there. For
Yeah.
you, in how would you say it's a better way to celebrate International Women's Day in ways that actually acknowledge and promote the rights and contributions of differently abled women in the global conversations? And what changes do you hope to see in the next 5 to 10 years?
I believe that in these panels, let me start with the panels, just like you said. We need to bring together the women that have truly been part of this system. By that, I mean bring women that have the experience, not the people that will speak above. So I know that there are also the disabilities that do not show up bodily, but even with those, so even if they're hearing impaired, bring these women together and allow them be the ones to represent themselves, these women, men, or women, especially when we talk of the International Women's Day. The panel discussions and media policies must include differently abled women at the forefront of these events. That's the first thing for me. And let us support the women that need. So we have this event, and I I have no biases about it, but I say if it is that we want to deal with children, let's deal with children. If it's a day for specially abled women, then let us bring them together and then let us hear their stories. Because in listening to their stories, we can then come into tangible actions beyond words. We can understand when it is that we create an event and there are just staircases leading into the event venue, and not everybody is using crutches and can walk like I am. And then when they come in their wheelchairs and abled women have to lift them across the staircases, it creates a different awareness for you and I for the next time we're trying to get a venue. Let them be tangible representatives of these events. Then what changes do I hope to see? And specifically when I thought about this interview, I thought about these things through yesterday, and I said, I want to see more women with disabilities in leadership roles because they can. I also want a stronger legal framework protecting our rights as women with disabilities. There should be better access to education, healthcare, technology, spaces, better access for all of us. A world where inclusion is the norm, not the exception. Don't say, okay, the problem with having a disability, I insist, is not with the person that has the impairment. The problem is with the people that do not acknowledge that all of us are differently abled. So I look forward to a country, I look forward to communities, I look forward to workplaces, I look forward to cities, I look forward to boardrooms where you acknowledge the fact that someone that is coming in has a different need from you. You need the staircase. I may need the slopes. That you acknowledge, as I acknowledge that you need the staircases, that I have a special need, and that is made provision for before I am there.
Thank you very much, Mmanti, for speaking with us today. It's really lovely hearing from you, and I do hope that in the next 5, 10 years, just as we've said, we will definitely see all of these changes getting to be effective. But thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Permit me to say amen. Thank you. And do have a lovely day too. It was beautiful speaking with you.